How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Immersive Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Tivador, and today we are here with Reuben Langdon. And the Daily Mail has referred to him as the most famous actor that you've never seen. Reuben has had his fingers in just about every area of the entertainment business, Hollywood. It's anything that you or your children or your cousin or your brother might have had a really big interest in. Reuben probably had a part in it somewhere along the lines. Think of 7 degrees to Kevin Bacon. It should be 6 degrees to Reuben Langdon. It's great stuff. I'm really honored to have him on the show. And as always, I want to say thank you to Unified TV for being our affiliate sponsor. Unified Network of Truth is what I refer to them as. Their link is in the bio to subscribe to their streaming service. It is $20 a month or $200 for 1 year. It's a little bit of a savings. And with the yearly subscription, you do get access to all the live events for free. So that's something that I just want to let people know about. And of course, one other spot, the Galactic Federation of Light, GFL Clothing, clothing for light workers. They are working on some great things. Dotan and Tavel, check out one of the recent episodes. They're talking about some of the things they do with their clothing, the frequencies involved, and the science involved behind certain materials. And they're even incorporating that science into the clothing that they're making. So I really do believe in them making clothing for quote-unquote light workers. It's a great thing. So shout out to Dotan and Tavel. Hello, Reuben. How are you doing today?
Thanks for having me. Good to see you, Tyler.
Great to see you, my friend. Coming from the City of Angels today, coming from Los Angeles?
Actually, I'm in Big Bear, California. It's about 2.5 hours east over towards out of the city towards Palm Springs area. So we're about an hour down the mountain or up the mountain from Palm Springs.
Yeah, it's Joshua nice Tree. Out there in Big Bear. Yeah, near the Joshua Tree area. That's great. Out there for are you doing any projects out there? Are you just out there with the family?
No,
what do you got going on?
I've actually lived out here full time since 2016. So having been close to the entertainment industry in Hollywood before, in my opinion, it totally took a dump during the COVID era. It was kind of semi-working, going into town for projects and stuff, and then now, since COVID, it's pretty much for at least the things I've been involved with have been pretty much shut down.
Remote and such, or shut down.
Yeah, everybody's working remote, and there's not much going on. I mean, there's still shows and stuff, but as far as my involvement, I've been really heavy since COVID and doing my own show, Interview with Ed, Extra Dimensional. So I really haven't even had the time to dip my toe back into Hollywood. Even if they called, I wouldn't be able to get back in there.
That's okay, right? I mean, you're doing what you want to do. You're doing what you're doing, totally. And that's what's important. I know you do have some events coming up though, pretty soon here. I guess the Lemurian Life Expo. I'm actually really excited about that personally, but that's just my own, 30 high school self all the way to now. Atlantean and Lemurian history not here, but tell us a little bit about what you have coming up.
Yeah, that's happening in Mount Shasta, Northern California. So it's a good 10-12 hour drive from LA. However, it's that area around Mount Shasta is it's kind of one of those spots like Sedona, where it's a pilgrimage spot for a lot of different spiritual people, going way back, but more recent, it's gotten a name for itself in that world because of so many people having so many unique experiences there. Ooh. And connecting in with the inner city of Telos, the Lemurian city of Telos. There's a whole lore and legend behind that, which I cover in my show a little bit. Really, the idea is building the conference around that idea and around the concept of Telos and Lemuria and these ancient civilizations that have been lost through our history or through, maybe even possibly even hidden through, certain elite groups trying to control the narratives on how the populace should believe where our roots came from. So I think some of that is involved with the the
I think
erasing of this history.
I think it's a little bit of both. Absolutely.
Yeah.
What you said there, it's nail on the head. I agree. I think it's definitely a little bit of both.
So we're looking to sort of bring back that forgotten energy of Lemuria. In time, all the writings and the channelings and the different people that speak of it talk about Lemuria as a time where we were more connected. We weren't as separated. So the density was a lot lighter back then. And people were connected into Mother Nature and into the planet and lived in more harmonious ways. So there was less conflict going on, and it was more of a feminine energy sort of guiding thing, the day-to-day life, as opposed to the masculine stuff where we've seen how that's gotten us in trouble. It got them in trouble back then, doing the over feminine thing. So now we've kind of done the feminine thing, then we did the masculine thing, and now it's time to balance it out. Totally.
Yeah, man.
But right now,
that's a great point.
There definitely is an imbalance in the divine masculine. You can see it everywhere around us with the wars and the politics and everything else. Hopefully, our goal with this is to, with bringing and tuning into the Lemurian energy, we're also reconnecting back to our feminine side and letting that come in a little bit more. So like you said, balancing things out.
Yeah, man, that's been, a huge part of my journey. I don't like cliches and labels too much, but I guess cliches and labels became that way for a reason. But during my, quote unquote dark night of the soul and awakening journey and transformation out of what I used to do, which was, I was kind of another just ignorant middle-class American, just doing what I thought was the right thing to do, but, disregarding what I kind of knew to be the truth a little bit. And it's also funny that you mentioned that. I did my first past life regression session that I've ever done before last week. It was last Wednesday.
Oh, right. Congratulations.
And, apparently it was really cool. It was like 2.5 hours long, and it was recorded. And I meditate often. I'm like a very avid meditator, and I go into trance often. I mean, sometimes for many, many hours. And I don't channel or anything like that. I'm not a channeler. I spend time in that trance state. And it's very therapeutic for me. It's very beneficial to me. So, for hypnosis and things like that, it's pretty easy to put me into trance because I can kind of go there anyway. But what came out of that was Lemuria. It was Hollow Earth and leaving the Hollow Earth and talking about leaving Lemuria, going and having to go to Agartha. It was like completely filled with all that stuff, which was very interesting because, I've never had that kind of assessment done. I've never really looked into it too much. And as far as the whole, star system origin and everything like that goes, all that a lot of people talk about, I've spoken to some really high level, and I mean respected channelers and things like that. And I've had them tell me things about like star system origin and stuff like whatever. The ones I respect the most have always told me that doesn't matter. Because my concept is always, I believe I'm from the one. I come from the cosmic one, and we descended as fractals to have experiences everywhere, all sorts of different experiences. And then the ascension is, those fractals coming back to the one, to the cosmic one. That's kind of my personal metaphorical belief. So the idea of what star system are you from has never been like a huge issue for me, or like what were your past lives. Like I've just never harped on it too hard. But Lemuria, as far as my past lives, kept coming up. And then I started getting blasted with all sorts of messages about, where my star origin system was, even though this man refused to tell me. And so it's, constant reminders of the star system that I supposedly came from, and then leaving Lemuria.
Can you share
So
Where did that?
they've told me the Pleiades, they've told me Sirius, and they've told me Orion. They've told me, and interestingly, there's many people, and I'm talking like dozens, have told me those three. Like, I just unsolicited, will shoot me a message and say, "Hey, by the way, you're from these three star systems or whatever." Like, okay, so it's just kind of interesting, but
Yeah, I think you're correct in not putting too much weight into that, because at the end of the day, it's like it's just another form of segregation, and this whole playing this whole kind of race card thing in a cosmic sense. So it's like we're all from the stars. We're all human beings. We're all yes, we all do have our unique lineages of different star connections. But does it really matter? That at the end of the day, it only matters with resonance to leaning towards a specific race or not. That there's a resonance. There's just like I could be a white guy and totally into African, traditional music and hip hop or African based cultures, and it doesn't matter.
That's a good example.
Right? Yeah,
absolutely.
So, or I could, vice versa, be a black guy and totally into, Viking lore and
really
and runes and that kind of stuff.
Heavy metal and ruins and just
so it doesn't
breaking the stereotypes.
Yeah, so I think it's just a matter of what you resonate with, and not so much with your actual DNA and where your genetic makeup and all that, because all that stuff's in us.
Yeah, very well said, and I've always kind of agreed with that, and that's been my personal opinion. But of course, I'm not against things like a past life regression or a star system analysis.
Well, if anything,
it got me to thinking.
Anything the bringing up these ideas of if you're told that in a sense of, oh, you're Syrian or Arcturian or Orion, as long as it piques your curiosity to go and investigate what are those aspects. Maybe I am. Let's go find out what is the collective consensus of what a Pleiadian is, and let's see if that actually resonates with me, and then I can decide. So I think there's nothing wrong with someone sort of dropping those breadcrumbs for you to follow and get excited with. Yeah.
Oh yeah, agreed, 100%. And yeah, that's a great point. I want to clarify. I have no issue with those labels, like on any kind of cosmic or grand scale. It's just the way I try to personally live since I've started to really open myself up. And just open myself up, by that I mean deprogram myself. For a long time I lived in, as a kid, I was a pretty well enough normal kid and lived a normal American upbringing and got the normal, classic public education programming and all that stuff. But I did get a little bit of a lucky break, like we talked about. When I was about 16, I started going out to Los Angeles, flying out and playing, in studio with a lot of big bands. I started going on tour, and I started getting exposed to things that I probably wouldn't have been exposed to at 16 otherwise. So, I've had some different life experiences, but that general level of human programming is still there. Of course, it always has been there. And ultimately, I went back to, just working a white collar job. I was an interior designer for a long time. Still found a way to do art, but
nice, yeah.
I ended up doing that for about 6 or 7 years. Most of it with one company, and then I went, trying to help grow another company. But just the business of all of it, and I left that back, I would say it was about 4 years ago or so now, and I just wasn't. It was like a magnet that was just kind of pulling me to just leave and do what exactly? I can't say. And now I think I can say it was
now you're doing it. Yeah.
To serve the collective, they say be a light worker, to be a beacon of light in darkness, to help forward the ascension, for the awakening, for the cause of disclosure. And a lot of things started for me with just absolute pure real world disclosure issues, exposing things that I saw in Hollywood, things that I saw in my personal life, in the boardroom, and things that I saw, that I've seen, things that I've experienced, things that I've studied. And the more spiritual aspect of things and looking into things as like from a law of one perspective kind of came a little bit later. But now here it is a few years later, and I can say I've never been happier. And it's not like the circumstances are making things happier. It's me being fulfilled, like having conversations like this, meeting people with different viewpoints and who have done valuable things, who have reached the conclusions that I've reached, that okay, there is a cosmic ether out there that we are a part of. We're not separate. We're brothers and sisters. There's something to all this. It has a meaning beyond just, what maybe traditional religion places on it. Since I came to that, it's like now I feel like I'm ready to rock and roll. I feel like I'm on fire. Not delusions of grandeur or anything. I don't want to stop. I just want to keep, my gift, I guess, is to spread conversation with people who have gifts and people who have done amazing things, such as yourself. And I'm just loving it. It's not about like money or clout or climbing a corporate ladder anymore. Now my life's about like on a scale of how good I feel about what did I do to contribute to the collective ascension today. Did I try? It's not even if I succeeded, it's just that I try my best, and that's a good day. And then if I get to talk to guys like you, that's like a bonus. You know what I mean?
Sure, totally. Well, appreciate it. Thanks for looking at it that way.
Absolutely. I mean, it's all really about mindset when it comes down to it. Look at anything anyway, and you can make what you make of it.
Totally.
So, Reuben, I've obviously I've seen a lot of what you've done back when you were in Hollywood outside of, and of course, I definitely want to get to the interviewing extra dimensional stuff and all that. But just a little background stuff. I know you did a lot of voice work, video games. I saw that you've done a fair bit of stunt double work and things like that. One that I really noticed that I thought was kind of cool was I think it was season 1 of Dexter, stunt double or something like that. And I was like, oh yeah, I watched that show. You know what I mean? Back when it was on TV, and I was just a TV watching person. I was glued to the box after work.
There's a lot of you'll see me pop up in a lot of random shows like that over the years. Just as either doubling the lead actor or just a random thug that needs to get punched in the face and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's really cool. So was it stunt work or was it voice work that you kind of ended up doing first? What was the thing that led you into entertainment?
Yeah, stunt work was well, it was acting first, actually. I started off acting in Japan on a TV show, kind of like the Power Rangers. Cool. Awesome. And then, and it was in that process that I wore many hats. Before even that, I was just a big fan of Jackie Chan and stunts in general, Bruce Lee, and influenced by that. So I always wanted to be more of like an action actor. And because of my age and my look, I was living in Japan at the time and wasn't getting those types of roles outside of the one role I did on the Power Rangers or on the Power Ranger Light show. And I just kept pursuing. Once I started training with the stuntmen on the show, I started pursuing more of a stunt career. It was more exciting to me than acting. So I got some chances to be. Usually, at that time when I was living in Asia, I was back and forth between Hong Kong and Japan. So they were always looking for a bad guy, like how we typecast Asians.
We typecast Asians as the bad guy,
or the foreigners as the bad guy. They typecast the foreigners as the bad guy for their shows.
Okay,
yeah. So that was really the main type of roles they had. But because of my look at that time, now I can totally play a bad guy and look evil and all that stuff. But at the time, I was this 19-year-old kid or 20-year-old kid,
a young boy,
a young
innocent looking man.
That look, so the roles were few and far between, and then I eventually, after training and sort of getting my skill set when it came to stunts and physical acting, I moved back to the States and actually started working on the on the U.S. Power Rangers, their version as a stuntman. So I was doubling actors. Wearing the suits and being a Power Ranger in that sense. again, not
Very
seeing my
cool.
face. So that's where that article kind of came from. Was
Yeah, the
I've
most
been in a
famous
lot of
actor you've
different.
never seen.
I've been in a
And
lot
we've
of
heard your
shows like the
voice.
Power Rangers and Avatar and others that you never
Yeah,
really see my face.
and then the games and such too. I
Yeah,
mean, a
yeah,
lot of people play video games. I mean, yeah, Reuben's voice is out there, and his face is out there behind a mask.
yeah,
So
exactly.
that was like the original Power Rangers, like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers
Yeah,
back in the
yeah, Mighty
90s. Is
Morphin.
that, yeah,
I
it's
came in
amazing,
1999 was the first episode, first series. I think it was called Lightspeed Rescue. I think was
Wow,
the name of the
that's
series. Yeah,
incredible.
in the late
Yeah,
90s.
I'd say I was a young buck in the late 90s, and I remember like digging on the Power Rangers a little bit when I was a kid. I think I was a little older, but it was
I
actually
think
something that I liked when I was a younger kid. So that's fun.
yeah, most of the
Awesome.
guys are kind of shocked when they find out that the Pink and Yellow Ranger were actually dudes in suits.
Dudes in
Um,
suits. Yeah.
so when they find that out, they're kind. I mean, of course, the actresses were
Yeah, the
female,
actresses were females.
but when they're in the suits, most of the time they were male actors.
Yeah, that's an interesting little factoid. A lot of guys wouldn't think of it like that.
No,
It's
no.
that's a
Usually
fun one.
it can be a little shocking depending on how into the Power Rangers you were.
And that just kind of reminds me, and I think it was almost a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. Pardon, I'm forgetting the full name, but was it Jason Frank or
Yeah, Jason Frank.
the Green Ranger? And, he was
He's green, white. Yeah, he played a few different ones.
is he the one we lost from this? We lost last year. Is that correct?
Yeah, he committed suicide, I believe, about a year ago, almost exactly a year ago.
I remember seeing that and it just kind of hitting me kind of hard for some weird, how some things hit you harder than others and you sometimes don't know why. I didn't have any like personal relationship with anybody from the show or anything like that. It was just, I don't know. It was a moment of like, wow, I'm like a man in my 30s now, and this is a guy who's honestly now not. I think he was in his 40s or close, maybe whatever. When he was obviously sick, succumbed to mental illness. But I remember that just hitting me hard, thinking like, wow, like can be anybody. I mean, I've had my own little bouts of depression and things like that. I mean, everybody probably has to some degree or another. Maybe not everybody, but I've had those episodes, those bouts, and happy and blessed to make it through. I also know many people who have not. I mean, I've lost a lot of people to mental illness, whether it be truly lost them or just they're, for lack of a better word, lost. But when I saw that, I just remember like it kind of took in this war between now and my childhood, and it kind of brought a tear to my eye. I remember making a post about it on Instagram and everything, and just it really touched me. It bothers me when I don't want anybody to ever feel that way. It's horrible. Was that somebody that you knew, or?
Yeah, I'd met him. He had already moved on from the Power Rangers by the time I got on to the show. That was several years into the seasons. But I've done appearances and conventions with him, and he was always a good guy, super positive on the outside. So he was a fun guy to be around and to talk about the old days on Power Rangers. It was, even though we were sort of different eras, he was before my time on the show.
Yeah.
We all shared a lot of the same stories because working with the Japanese crew and
same production,
same production, and
stuff.
Same producers, and the main staff stayed pretty steady throughout the years. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was sad to see him go.
Condolences.
But his spirit lives on. For sure.
Spirit lives on. Condolences to his family, and just a big shout out to his legacy, his spirit, and any man who's going through any kind of mental health struggles, and anybody who is who thinks maybe their happy friend is just fine because he's faking it. If you get the feeling something's off, it doesn't ever hurt to ask. Sometimes talking to somebody can make all the difference. So I don't know if
Yeah.
that was the case. I don't really believe in that. It's always worth the extra minute. Sometimes people just need an ear. We'll never know, but it's worth mentioning. So thank you, Reuben. And I don't want to go dark down that road. I just wanted to give him a little due respect.
Yeah, it came up for a reason, for sure.
Absolutely. So, stunt work and all that. I saw that you said, did you end up you got to work with Jackie Chan, I think. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I had, before I came back to the States to work on Power Rangers, I actually met Jackie on a Hong Kong production briefly. Okay. And then when I lived in the States, I was actually living in, I don't know if you've heard of a gentleman named Sammo Hung, he was a part on a TV show called Martial Law.
I've heard the name. I'm not able to put like the face and all that, but
he's famous for being a heavier set guy. He's actually Jackie's Peking Opera elder brother. They were in Peking Opera school, and in Asia, he's like, they call Jackie Daigo, and they call Sammo Daigo Dai. So he's like a big brother. Jackie's big brother, and he's big brother. That's so cool. I was actually staying in his guest house when I lived in LA for the first 3 years of being in LA, and
that's cool.
He was called in to action direct a Hong Kong movie called Hong Kong England co-production called The Medallion. It's a terrible movie. Don't go watch it. But Samuel called me in to then double at that time Julian Sands, who has been in a lot of classic science fiction and
pretty prolific.
So at that time I got to, because I was the right height and Caucasian, and he was sort of the main villain of the show, so I got the opportunity to work with Jackie pretty regularly for the rest of that film, which was like about a 9-month shoot, and we were fighting, and I was in wires and doing all kinds of stuff with my hero Jackie Chan at the time. So it was kind of cool.
Yeah, that must have been a pretty cool experience, being that you said you were kind of like interested. That was kind of somebody you looked up to, was the Jackie Chans and the Bruce Lees of
and Sammo too. I really looked up to Sammo, so being able to work with him at that capacity was a dream come true. Totally.
Yeah, it's inspiring, and I think I've had similar experiences, not name dropping or anything, but just when you get to work with people that you really looked up to, that you really want what they have, you really respect them. Maybe you don't know them yet, but at the point that you're at, at that point you really respected Jackie Chan, you looked up to him, and you get to work with him. When I think when that happens to us, it really is super valuable. It gives us a spark. It gives us a fire of confidence that we wouldn't maybe have had otherwise, because we get that surreal moment of, wow, I think I'm doing it. It crushes the potential imposter syndrome within us and allows us to rise to the level that we're truly capable of. And it's amazing. Me personally, I do my best work with whatever it is, whether it's music or podcasting. I actually have done some random acting, commercials, music videos, things like that, but nothing TV or film or anything like that. Just came with the territory, anything that I do, whether for being an interior designer, I put my full passion into it and everything like that. I really lean into it. I want to give it my all. And I feel like I'm giving it my all, and I feel better about it when I have those, kind of rite of passage experiences where it's like, oh yeah, I've so to speak, a level, so to speak, like, oh, wow, I've met one of my intellectual heroes. Now I've got my metaphorical purple belt and I'm a little more confident to go on and continue doing what I'm doing. There's just little things, they bump your confidence. I mean, was that the case when you started working with Jackie? It kind of made you feel pretty good, right? It validated your hard work and your success and everything.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely starstruck moments there where you're having to question where you're at. Like, how the hell did I get here? I'm fighting my hero on the screen. So it's a humbling experience for sure. But it was also a educational one because of the just the mass amounts of knowledge that Samu and Jackie have when it comes to making action cinema. They are the grandmasters of action cinema even to date. I don't think anybody's really been able to top Jackie's work, his library of just amazing physical feats. So,
absolutely. I mean, maybe, Bruce Lee, unfortunately, was cut short. So, his body of work isn't quite as big. I love Bruce Lee's body of work. But I mean, that is a good point. Jackie's very prolific. There's a lot of stuff out there, and it's all, as far as action, cinematography goes, it's very, very good.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anyone more, just the level of knowledge and everything that he's done. It's incredible. Yeah, so I learned a lot.
Yeah, it's good. It's amazing to learn from people who have really put in work and done great things. So obviously you've switched over. I guess you found your way into doing the video game voiceovers, or was that later?
Yeah, that sort of came around the same time as Power Rangers. I had worked in Japan. I'd worked on a video game called Resident Evil Code Veronica in 1997.
With the Resident Evil series,
Yeah.
General,
so
of course,
I got to dabble in, at that time, a very new technology, the motion capture technology, where now it's pretty prolific in most video games and movies. Everybody knows about the dots on the body, and
the green scoot, the little ping pong balls all over the body.
Yeah, the ping pong balls. There's been lots of behind the scenes first to get the opportunity to put the suit on and do that work. So when I returned,
it was new.
After that, when I returned to the States and started working in Hollywood, I started getting calls from game designers and people because they knew I had that experience. Yeah, so it was a little bit rare even in the stunt world.
Before.
So I kind of,
nobody in the States had.
That launched me into a career of not just performing in games, but also producing game cinematics and doing, hiring English-speaking actors to sort of do the dubs for the Japanese game. So I was pretty involved in that video game world for a minute there.
That's really, really cool. And I saw you were involved in Street Fighter, Resident Evil. Street Fighter was the one that I was like, man, there's another one from my childhood.
Totally.
I was all up on that Sega Genesis playing Street Fighter. Man, there's something from Street Fighter that I just remembered. It's a quote that it's one of my favorite quotes, and I forget the character. I think it's Dalsim. But he says it in another language when he wins the fight, and I forget what the language is, and I forget the speech. But he throws a fireball, that's his special, and he beats his opponent. And then I found out somebody told me what the quote meant, and he says it, I think, in some kind of Hindi dialect or something. But the quote is, "It is not my flame that destroyed you, but your belief that it could."
Yeah, I totally missed that one.
And it was like a fun little factoid from Street Fighter. And I was like, they're doing
bombs there.
They're dropping deep little tidbits in. That's cool. Yeah, absolutely. So now, obviously, that's an amazing story. A lot of people move out to LA. I have friends who moved out to LA to chase that dream, to try to. I'm going to be a stunt double. I'm going to work on video games, and it's not a job that everybody can do. So first off, congratulations for making it in what a lot of people. I don't know if everybody knows, but a very competitive industry, and and being as prolific as you are, that's quite an accomplishment. So I just want to say, kudos to you, especially doing it, internationally like that, from Japan to America. I mean, it's two totally different scenes, two different groups of people that I guess you have to kind of get used to. So that's interesting. My life partner, I shy away. we live as husband and wife, but we're not married in the States. She's a Filipino. She was born and raised in the Philippines. She came here. I met her when she was 21 or so, just organically. Awesome. So I actually do have a little bit of tie to the Orient as well. It's just not. It's family, not business. But so something I wanted to ask you is, so you're going along and you're getting these jobs and things in Hollywood, and it seems like that's probably like on your way up moment, like, and which is a great thing. Was there a time where you kind of started to have awareness and an interest in, because of course now we know you're doing the interviews with extra dimensionals and the Lemurian Life Expos and things like that, which is so amazing, and those communities are growing by leaps and bounds, which is just incredible. Was there a time where that that material, Lemuria, Atlantis, Telos, the Emerald Tablets, etc., was there something that turned you on to all that stuff? Something that sent you down that path of knowledge and in awakening?
No, it's actually
was that
I guess
that
it was kind
always
of
a part of your life?
was exposed a little bit to it. My mom was in the Ramtha cult, and which was to channeling Ramtha out in Washington.
Okay.
And I know, so I was kind of exposed to it. I was
So you were exposed to channeling
more intuitive
really.
than I give myself credit for, because I called out the cold aspects as a kid to my mom at that time. Now Ramtha, the earlier Ramtha teachings are phenomenal, and there's a lot of good wisdom in there, but it did sort of turn sour, went to the dark side, and there's a lot of shenanigans that went on within the Ram community, and many people were exposed to those shenanigans, and many people were just dipping their toe in, get the information, and go out, and they weren't exposed. So everyone's experience is unique, and I don't want to take anything away from, when I sort of abruptly call it. There were aspects of it, and they're depending on the level and how much you subscribe to it. It definitely got to that level. So, but there's still,
of course,
really good. I look now, at the time I disregarded the whole thing, but I look back at some of the teachings now and I'm like, well, that was actually pretty good stuff. But so having that exposure kind of on one side, it totally turned me off of the work of that type of stuff. I kind of put it all in the BS camp. And it wasn't until much later when I was with James Cameron playing an alien, that doubling Sam Worthy, that I was exposed to a lot of different indigenous cultures and studies around that. That was sort of our homework for the film, was to understand a lot of how indigenous cultures do things, their belief systems, their dress, how they dress, and the tools that they use, and the purpose for them. So I was sort of taking this deep dive down in my studies for different cultures, and I started connecting the dots of how the cultures, native cultures around the world, had connections. And it made me think, well, if they're spread out all over the world, and if we have this sort of creation theory, or we're told about, the Bible, and just weren't adding up. So when I started investigating and looking into these cultures and talking to the elders from some of these cultures, I started getting a different worldview of how we, the creation story started to change. I started getting various versions of the creation story, and I think that just having that exposure opened me up to different ideas. So channeling wasn't quite in my
just new
awareness and at that time, but it opened me enough to have an experience. And I actually had a contact with a UFO visual experience in 2007 while I was working on Avatar. So that propelled me, and as my buddy Jeremy Corbell would say, weaponized my curiosity.
It's incredible.
So I ended up going, a rabbit hole of
weaponized podcast,
investigating the phenomenon and connecting dots to producing the Citizen Hearing on Disclosure in 2013, a 5-day mock congressional hearing. Jeremy was part of that as well, and then more exposure to more researchers and data and who had either experienced meeting a being or seen being in, like Bob Lazar, being inside of a craft, and yeah, all of this. So you get all that data, and then what do you do with it? And eventually you start connecting the dots. And that's what led me to my show interview with Ed, and then also to what we're doing now with the Lemuria Life Expo, and bringing this idea of Lemuria back to the masses.
Absolutely. And I think that's great. That's a great story. In my, because something you said there struck me. It opened you up to new ideas just enough. And I always say that to people, and people that I work with, there's all sorts of different aspects to this whole disclosure, forbidden history, and reclaiming our true history and understanding our origins as a human species, and what's our role in the grander scheme of things in the cosmos. All those questions that we ask the starseed community, which has really just blossomed. Number you likely lined up with the pandemic. I mean, since then, the starseed community is huge. People who identify as starseeds, people who identify as having certain abilities and things like that, people like me who just left their decent career and their whole family was like, what are you doing? Why would you leave that life? I don't know, because I think everything's a lie. And trust fell, and now I think I'm doing all right. But man, for a while it was like, I don't know, it could go either way. It's great to hear and see that somebody can go from just having an experience of, I saw and heard some things that opened me up to just listening to new ideas, and from there came and now, of course, you've got a Lemurian Life Expo next week, which I think is another thing that's cool about that. I know Atlantis gets a ton of play and press, and we talk about Atlantis. A lot of people talk about Atlantis, but Lemuria should be talked about just as much, I think. So let's let's do an Lemurian Life Expo, not just Atlantean stuff. And to go from doing things like Street Fighter and the Power Rangers and Dexter, to deciding that you want to do interviewing extra dimensionals, which is amazing. I mean, we can talk a little bit about that if you want. And I'd be happy to listen to you tell the audience here a little bit more about that show. And to have the catalyst be the movie Avatar and studying native cultures and finding the common grounds between them and all that is just really beautiful, because it's another version of the quote unquote wake up that happens to a lot of us. And for you, it just happened to be on a movie actually playing an alien, which, when I watch Avatar, I kind of see it as a little more nonfiction than we think. It's definitely labeled as a sci-fi fantasy movie, but I can totally envision that type of thing really happening. And for all I know, I wouldn't be surprised if it's actually happening right now. I mean, I don't want to get into blaming the Pentagon for not doing certain things with their budget and stuff. That's not my place. But is the idea of the movie Avatar really that far-fetched? No, I don't think so. I remember thinking after I first saw that movie, I was almost a little depressed, just thinking that I couldn't live there. I couldn't live like that. And then, I was in college at the time, and I took a class called Native American Indians, and I was like, they live like that. And you can live like that. And we do live like that. We've got to give a little love back to Mother Gaia. We've got to give a little love back to Mother Earth. She's her. And you touched on, divine masculine and divine feminine and things like that. And I think you were right. The divine masculine kind of took things over for a while, and it even turned into something that, although I don't like the coined term toxic masculinity. I mean, the masculine, the patriarchy, the masculine zeitgeist that came about to kind of rule things over the past couple hundred years or so, really, or longer, really. Yeah, I mean, it did create some toxic systems, but like you said, it's the response to that, the response to the quote unquote masculinity that was toxic. The response was toxic. I mean, it's to me, it's classic divide and conquer stuff, and that's why I believe in ascension. That's why I'm pushing ascension. Is I have this fire in me to like make sure that people are not under, if they don't want to be, if they're under some kind of spell where they're operating under divide and conquer mentality, we need to be reminded of that. It's programmed at us all the time. It's trillions of dollars in advertising subliminally spent on making us think, just dividing us in any way, shape, or form, even in the same camp. And that's kind of what I see my job is to make sure that the people at the Lemurian Expo, Life Expo, and the people who are also, just trying to get NASA to admit that the moon landing was fake, like that's their cause. Like
Yep.
I want to point out that we're all coming from the same place, generally, of disclosure and of wanting to be told the truth and of taking responsibility for ourselves as sovereign beings who are ready to be a part of the greater galactic society. And it's maybe we don't all know that yet, but I think we're there where we can have that conversation, and
it's
have a lot more power.
Definitely seems to be the trend.
It's a good thing.
Very well might
see
be.
it as the trend.
It could be that
I don't know
too.
if it's just my algorithm or echo chamber, but I don't think so. I think we're coming into a good place where people are quote unquote waking up. Tell me a little bit about if you can give me a little rundown about the Life Expo,
kind of have the visual.
Expo. What are going to be some of the events there?
So the idea, it's sort of two conferences in one. It's a 2-day sort of your theater experience, in theater experience where stage, doing the presentations. That's the first 2 days. And we have, let me just go through some of the speakers here. We have, for example, day one is Lemuria and the idea of Telos and the Lemurian energies. And then day two is more focused on our galactic folks like Rob Gothier and Wendy Kennedy, and who channel more of the galactic energies from with Rob and Trev and Wendy and the Palladians, and the Lyrans from Jamie. And because I wanted it because I think they're part of the Lemurian experience. It's said through all the different channeling information I've dove into and other books and things. It said that Lemuria was in constant contact. They were coming and going, different races, different beings. So I feel we're kind of coming back into that idea right now, and that's an aspect of this disclosure is also, we're finding out about our cosmic family, but we're also finding out about our ancient, which was already connected to our cosmic family. So it's kind of going full circle and connecting all the dots.
Yeah.
And then for the 2 days after, we're just having workshops that are more intimate settings, limited, and each speaker is going to have a 3-hour
less people per
section
speaker,
that they can really unpack their modality to the specific with whatever's being taught. I want to go to all of them because I'm into everything, but we'll be live streaming the event. So if you,
I know, right?
In all the workshops, except for there's a few offsite workshops that will be recording and editing, and it'll be available for playback. So if you can't make it in person, you can definitely get an online ticket and check it out from afar. It's the energy will still be there.
Yeah, the energy will certainly still be there. So yeah, anybody who's like hearing about this Lumbering Life Expo who click the link and like really thinks it's exciting, if you can't make it out to Mount Shasta, you can still be a part of it, remotely. So that's something, using new technology that sometimes is labeled potentially a little bit bad and
Absolutely.
such, like social media and AI. That's us just transmuting it and use it for good. That's what's done. That's how it's done. It's a great thing. That's really cool. I've heard Mount
It
Shasta
has
referred to as the most
it has
paranormal
Sasquatch
place on
energy, it
Earth,
has fairy
which is
energy, it
really
has
cool.
Telosian Lemurian energy, it has the ET energy going in and out of the mountain. There's craft being witnessed all the time. So it definitely has it all.
Yeah, I've seen that, and I've talked to like firsthand, friends of mine who've had accounts of, craft and such, and I've had my own contact experiences, but craft flying into the side of the mountain and almost kind of just looking, almost kind of absorbing into the mountain rather than going into any kind of entrance
lots of accounts
or
of that.
anything like that. That's something that I've heard like multiple times for the Mount Shasta experience. Lots of accounts, so that's very interesting. Also, I've seen a lot of events.
We'll
I
be
know
doing
Dr. Stephen Greer holds a lot
part of our venue. We have two
CE5
CE5s,
out
sort of
there
one
at
general and
Mount
with
Shasta,
the
obviously
on
for
the
good
Saturday
reason.
nights with all of the participants, and then we have a workshop CE5 conference, which is something I'm passionate about. That's actually going to be that's my main offering.
Awesome.
Is for a couple of years I ran monthly CE5s here in SoCal, Southern Cal. Many people come together. We often down in Lucerne Desert or in
That's incredible.
Joshua Tree, and then even here in Big Bear in the summertime, it's a great CE5 location.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, my dark night of the soul, my period of leaving my whole life behind, quitting my job, just thinking I don't know what to do, but it's gonna be fine, and all that, it actually started to turn around, and I can 100% say this. I can credit CE5, the CE5 protocols. I was meditating a lot. I was starting to go into trance, but then I discovered the CE5 protocols. Like, I actually heard them and like, okay, I'm gonna dive into this. I'll download the app. I'll actually like practice this and all that kind of stuff, and started to have contact experiences. I even had one where I was with my fiance at the time, and a craft came. We were on a walk, and I was like, "See, it left. I asked it to come back. It came back.
Awesome.
I got it all in video. I have a witness. It's with MUFON. It's all like registered and stuff. It was so awesome. It was so incredible. But I've had so many, like, that's what really took me out of like what was, I guess, a dark night of the soul, like post, just leaving my old life and thinking, what am I going to do? Because I can't operate in corporate America anymore. I can't operate in, keeping up with the Joneses anymore. What am I going to do? Having the CE5 experiences really was something that like took me out of that spot and was like, well, that's something you can do. You could, that's pretty amazing. And then, it just started leading to, like you said, it opened my mind to new experiences, things that I'd read and studied had all of a sudden taken on new meanings. And a new confidence came within me. I started, reading attachments to people that didn't really serve the person I was anymore. People that weren't going, not that they're bad people or anything, just people that weren't going to go down the same path, mindset wise, spirit wise, soul path wise, as I was. Reading those attachments and making new ones. I think replacing those things with both, replacing old thoughts and beliefs. Yeah, emptying the cup. Exactly. But then refilling it, I think, is important. I mean, you can't go around with an empty cup forever. So not that you got to refill it, but just something, a little something in there, some like minds and maybe some practices that work for you.
Totally.
That's the secret sauce. That's what it's meant for me. Absolutely. So the Marine Life Expo, that's just coming up in a couple of weeks.
For me, actually
What else
moving
is
to
going on
Japan
this
this
summer?
year. So my wife and I bought a house.
The next event
We're
after
moving
that?
back to Japan. So, now that the
Wow,
opportunities are opening over there and doors are closing here. So
that's exciting.
yeah, we're just excited for our big move, and it's going to take up most of the summer. So
That's cool. Well, yeah, that's a big. I always say moving's hard, but I've only moved from, you know,
overseas
as
is a
I've
whole
ever
other
moved is from
ballgame.
New England to Florida, 1,000 miles or so.
Yeah.
And usually it's just from going to Japan. It's a whole nother game. That's a crazy situation. Well, congratulations on that. I mean, it sounds like something that you want to do. So congratulations for having the courage and just the opportunity.
Yeah, we're excited.
The means and the
It's home away from home. I've spent a lot of time
That's
there
great.
over the years,
really
anyways, cool. And just makes sense now with where we're at with our lives and what we want to do, and we have to just like going home.
Very cool. Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. Couldn't be more happy for you. It sounds like you really got it going on. That's great. So, how did
Extra Dimensionals? Yeah. So, my first interview was with
interviewing. It's Extra Dimensionals, correct?
So back in 20,
how did you get started with that?
2010, early 2011, I started. I was running a visual effects business, video game business, out of Marina Del Rey, and because I had the space, it was a motion capture studio. So we actually, at that time, it was 1.5 million. It's still going. Some other people have taken it over, but it was quite an impressive build out. So the building had this amazing space. So I was like, I'd love to turn this space into this, a gathering space, and I did. And the first Tuesday of every month, we held ET Media meetup groups. And we had guys like Daryl Anka, Channeling Bashar, Wendy Kennedy, Nora Harold. We had the researchers who would pop in and out of LA would come by.
Yeah.
Yvonne Smith, Barbara Lamb. So we had quite a number of really prolific, cool. The influencers of the day of that time.
Prolific.
This was back in
personalities
2010.
On there.
So
that's great.
So channelers were coming. We were talking about ETs, and sort of my passion ended up producing the Citizen Hearing. So for about 3 or 4 years there, meeting a lot of people, having a lot of conversations, doing a lot of interviews with contactees and abductees, and holding different events in that space. And I just realized once I started talking to you or Daryl and hearing the channel material, it filled in a lot of the gaps that my hardcore sort of nuts and bolts research was. So I was only getting so far with that research, and those guys started coming in and filling in all the holes. Yeah.
Science only takes you so far.
And just the ideas when
spirituality, then comes whatever.
Wendy first said soul contract. That term with me because I was looking for a reason, so to say, why the abductees were getting abducted and putting back armed. And it just didn't make sense if it was the way it was being presented to us as a sort of there was a few of those, yeah, and some
would even
the ones who had so-called negative experiences, they still create positivity overall in their life. The experience may have been traumatic, but their lives changed. Chris Bledsoe, at the time, I had talked to him and interviewed him back in 2013 or 12, and hearing his story, I was just like, man, there's he got cured of Crohn's disease. It just didn't make sense. There's and other abductees who had chronic. So when I heard soul contract and started talking to the channelers, it just made sense that was the access to that information. It seemed valid to me, or at least I was. Let's pretend if it is, and see where this goes. And now, 10 years later, and 3 seasons in, and now I'm doing my own podcast, and having hundreds of conversations with different entities and beings. There seems to be a bigger picture that's being and there's a coherence to this bigger picture. Get ideas like Lemuria and the different ET races and stuff. So it's been a fun journey and exploration into the wacky world of channeling. But at the end of the day, the lessons and the messages and the spirit evolution that comes from going down those rabbit holes has been, it's been life-changing. Just remark on all the growths that I've had in personal life when I adopted a lot of these teachings. So
I identify with you on that one. I've had a recently, and I'd say over the past 6 months to a year or so, my exposure to channelers has really gone up. I've really started listening to a lot of different channels who are channeling different beings, different entities, and things like that. And that's actually something that, of course, I didn't understand. So it was something that I didn't place I never bashed or anything. I just didn't place a whole lot of stock in it because it was unknown to me. I wasn't really certain what was going on with like light language and channeling and things like that. But when I, kind of opened my mind up to listening to what some of these channelers were saying, and then listening to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 more. And now, I've had a few channelers on the show. I've done a few interviews with some here and there. Actually, you mentioned Bashar. His name is Tom Masari. He channels the voice of Abram.
Tom's amazing.
But
I love his energy.
To my show. Because I guess he's a really cool guy. But I've been exposed to him before, but I had him come and do just a short 20, 30 minute like channel session with me for the second episode of the show. And but even just through the past few years, like I said, watching channelers, listening to channelers, and then actually now having them on this podcast, which is it's still new, but I've had a few channelers on. I've had some light language therapy. I've had some people who do regression hypnotherapy, but they're also channels, things like that. There's common themes all over the place. There's always common themes. Not everything's always the same because there's a lot of metaphor there. It varies from day to day, but I would say that's definitely something that confirmed certain things for me too, and just allowed me to yet further expand what I was open to. Because how could so many people from so many independent sources be coming up with the same ideas? It just, I'm one of those guys who kind of analyzes things like that, and it was just like, well, I don't see how a channel from India could be saying the same thing as a channel from South America. Is the same thing from
that
Texas.
Was my journey. We don't know each other. The connection points between the different
all those
people.
Different examples.
We don't even know each other, so that was quite amazing.
Yeah, that's really cool. So where is
all 3 seasons are on
where is
Vimeo on demand.
Well?
That's
where
sort of the most comprehensive place to see it. My website kind of gets you to access to all of it. interviewwithed.org.com, and it's also on Roku and Tubi. So if you go to my website, there's links to all that. So it's also on Gaia. So I think the main sort of places outside of Vimeo would be Gaia, Tubi right now.
Yeah, I was going to say Gaia, Tubi sound like ones that a lot of people have
it's free
access to. And
I
believe Tubi is, if not free, it's at least cheap with ads or whatever.
And season 3, unfortunately, Gaia has only a limited
of course. Absolutely.
release. And so I recommend going to Vimeo, have the full. The Gaia version of season 2 is pretty much there, but right now season on Vimeo is all of season 3. So I put the links here.
Well, we'll certainly make sure to get the links in the bio of this. I usually myself and Jane usually do the best we can to promote these episodes, on Instagram, because that is where we have the most audience between the two of us. It doesn't hurt to have those promotional platforms. So along with, just advertisement for another episode, and I'll probably make some clips and such like I usually do. I will definitely put that link in anything that you want tagged and stuff in there, because I think I actually did check it out a little bit. I think people will like it. I think it's cool. I want people to check out these new things, open your minds, check out a show that is maybe a little harder to find than the one that's on the top 10 on Netflix, but there's amazing people making amazing bit work out there. They're doing amazing things.
Yeah, that was the thing with
not just
when I first interviewed
there's
Wendy.
more to it.
She in the Palladians, she asked me, she's like, "Well, what are you going to call this?" I don't know, probably something generic like interview with ET. And she's like, "Well, the Palladians right now, they're coming through. They're telling me that the more proper term would be ED, extra dimensionals." And they weren't offended, but they just said a more accurate term to use, which is great. I'm so glad I chose that.
That's my.
That was 10 years ago. And now what we have, David Grush and Representative Luna and Burchett in Congress, they're all talking about how it's a dimensional phenomenon, not a extraterrestrial. So I think kind of beat that.
That's
that idea. I think that title 10 years ago is helping already to get people out of this box of extraterrestrials and spacesuits and flying saucers, that it's a much
that's exactly what it's very physical, spacesuits, flying, the whole physical aspect of that stuff. Multi-dimensional, extra-dimensional implies that it's more of a quantum thing than a Newtonian physics thing, where you just see a ship that's flying really fast. Like, it's not just a really fast plane, it's extra dimensional
a little bit.
It's a whole different game.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I agree. It is a little bit better of a definition. Absolutely, and that's at the foundation of all this stuff really is dimensional physics and quantum physics and such. I mean, that's really the best kind of way to, if you have the patience for it, to really convince yourself of all these theories that we hear. I mean, once you start to really dive into quantum theory and things like that, it's like, it's almost undeniable and it's hard to sit here and say that we're alone and there aren't extra dimensionals and there aren't extraterrestrials or anything like that. It's I think personally my exposure to quantum physics has made that the answer to that question a resounding, it's 100% impossible that we're alone in one dimension on an Earth. Like, that's just not the way it can be, because of quantum physics and the theory behind it, and string theory and dimensional theory and things like that. It's just like, I can't reckon with it anymore, and that's okay. I mean, it's kind of highbrow.
Well, I love
but it's
the
where
headlines.
I'm at, and it helped.
The headlines yesterday, Fox News. New studies suggest aliens could be living on Earth
shift a little bit
disguised as humans. So the fact that stuff's bleeding into the masses is sort of a testament of the narrative is going on this stuff. People are kind of figuring it out and putting the pieces of the puzzle together. And it won't be long before I think collective humanity is like, oh yeah, of course ETs are real and they're here, and that's just that's been part of the experience.
Yeah. It almost feels like it's kind of like it's unspoken, but it's almost kind of like that already amongst a lot of people. Like, there's probably aliens. Are they here? I don't know.
Yeah.
But there's probably aliens. I mean, I felt
the past
that
4 years,
past
really,
10 to 20 years or so, that it's not even really a weird thing anymore. It's just, really, since the pandemic and stuff really was,
I'm sure they are.
You wonder, of course, was that something where, now are they connected in any way? I mean, who knows? It's just, it's both a little scary to think that there's been so much disclosure and so much hidden and so much unknown, but it's exciting too. I mean, I personally don't there could be benevolent. I'm
Mhm.
sorry, there could be malevolent beings out there in other dimensions. But I personally believe, and I've been told that, of course, if you are at a high enough frequency, if you are operating under the right intent, then those kind of negative beings have a really hard time entering you, have a really hard time messing with your soul, messing with your energy and such, which is really just another way of saying, like, if you have faith, you'll be okay. um, I think the majority of, what we're going to discover as maybe a multidimensional society and things like that is there's a lot more benevolence out there than maybe we think. I think, call me crazy, but I'm hopeful. I think disclosure might bring
Sure.
peace rather than chaos. Of course, there might be a little chaos first, but
Yeah.
I think it's something that could bring us peace.
Which already
It could bring
exists. We
us
just
all sorts of
need
things,
the
zero point
aliens
energy,
or the
free
ET
energy.
is just a permission
No
slip
need
for us to
for
sort of understand
it.
that a little bit better.
Yeah, and of course we have to be ready, as I'm understood, as a society. It can't just be a few of us that are ready, but it's got to be enough of us, or
Yeah,
I don't
whatever
know,
that
maybe
100
all of us, at
monkey
least to a certain
number
degree.
is,
Wouldn't you say
is
so?
that 1%, 10%, 50%? Who, I don't know. It probably depends
Right.
on the types of the population size and there's a
Who
lot of
knows?
factors involved there. But yeah, I mean, we're getting there. We're getting very close.
I think we're getting there. Absolutely. I mean, I feel that when I get in groups and do meditations, and you're familiar with this, they're more powerful in groups. I mean, just intent, the discovery of the measurement of the heart's magnetic field and things like that. It's all really coming to the surface, and it's awesome to see it come from all these different places. So I'm curious. One thing I definitely wanted to ask you was there a time where you kind of had a moment where you decided that, or not decided, but discovered anything dark as far as being in Hollywood, discovered anything that kind of pushed you away from, traditional Hollywood, and maybe started making you want to do your own type of thing? The reason I asked that is because, that's kind of what happened to me. Is I didn't want to keep going down the path I was going down. I still wanted to keep making art, but I didn't want to make it under those terms. Was there, and if you could speak on it, was there anything that really kind of started turning you away from
the main thing was, in 2020 when COVID hit,
kind of, ethos?
When Hollywood started reopening and they were doing all the COVID, where they were shoving up the swabs up everybody's noses and going hardcore with that. And I was, I was really to call it out, to call out the pandemic. And when I went on set, I would just look at all the ridiculous, call out the lack of science when everybody's like, "This is science." I'm like, "This is the sorry guys, this is called brainwashing. This is not science." Yeah. So I tried my darndest to go in it, but after a few jobs, I think I worked like 3 jobs, and was basically asked not to come back because of my pointing out how ill things were. Yeah, totally. Let me just.
Which is ironic now that they're admitting all those things you were saying.
And then, then they introduced the Vax Pass mandate, which then at that time I was like, that's it, I'm done. I'm never going back to this space again. Because that infringement on body autonomy and
that was
personal sovereignty was that, I was like, okay, any industry that's condoning this
personal sovereignty
and making it mandatory, then I don't want any part of this anymore. So that's when I threw in the towel. I put a hold on my union staff and canceled my, because the insurance aspects of it, they were not just passing, they're making it mandatory, and then that constant
anyway.
that shame game that was being played at that time for you're gonna kill grandma and all that stuff. So
Yeah. If you
yeah,
didn't have it, you're
so that
contributing to
sort
the
of
problem. It's your fault.
psychopathic
Everybody's got to get it.
mentality,
Yeah.
that mass psychosis hypnosis that was happening was be in that
Right.
space. And and then all the other disclosures. This stuntman friend of mine, two stuntman friends, but one I know really well, Brad Martin, Mike Smith. I don't know that well. It's a film called Shadow, or Into the Shadow, exposing a lot of the pedophilia stuff. So, and I called up Brad and I'm like, dude, hats off, you went there, and aren't you worried about because he still works in Hollywood. It's amazing. And he's like, he's like, no, I know it's true. And we did our research and we pulled it. They co-produced it with Liz Crokin, who is one of the prominent names of getting the word out on that stuff. So yeah, it was just kind of everything in my show. I was busy enough, and I'm like, you know what? I don't need to go back at this. So I'm done. Yeah. No, I look in hindsight.
It's great.
In hindsight, it was great.
Not great
for sure.
Those things
in the moment,
happen. It's just what's
in
great
the moment
is that
it's difficult. Yeah, because you're like, well, this has been my livelihood for so many years. How am I going to pay the bills?
In the moment, it wasn't.
So, there's those aspects. But
this is what I know.
Looking back, I'm like, yeah, I'm so glad I'm not dependent on that system anymore to get a paycheck, and I can not worried about censoring my speech or saying the wrong thing and offending someone, so then I don't have a paycheck. And that was part of the game that they were playing. Yeah, that was part of the Hollywood game.
Right. Not being in line with
that's how that world gets.
Not being in line with an agency or a project,
and it is a cult. Is because
and then the more you play the more you play ball, the more they see you can play ball, and you end up seeming to play ball a little more. And
those paychecks those Hollywood paychecks are really nice. Right? You don't have to work so hard.
I know some people who have.
Yeah, and they they make
commas in them
for an easier living, but then you have to, at what cost? Is censoring my speech and going against my values of who I am and who I know who I want to be. I know temporarily, of course, you have to sort of look at your financial situation and your desires, and that's the judging those things. Yeah. So and again, there's not saying
constant
that being in that industry makes you a bad person. Just being in the industry, there's just a lot of questionable things, and this is not just Hollywood. This is in the world. So, but it is quite prominent in the Hollywood scene. So you have to kind of ask yourself, okay, where do I want to go? Who's the kind of person I want to be, and is this in alignment with that? And if it's not, then you should probably move on. And if it's okay, and you're still doing what you love and are able to do that in that container, then absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Very well said. And the triumphant moment of your story to me is that you're still able to create. You're still able to be an artist. You're still able to do what you do as a performer, as an entertainer, and not, like you said, not be reliant on that system anymore to eat, etc. That's a powerful message to spread, because I know a lot of people people over the spectrum, people who have, left Hollywood successfully. I know people who went the hard route and started their own production companies and who have succeeded. But I know there's just as many people, well, probably more, who didn't, who turned down the Hollywood dream, but they fortunately didn't really end up making it in any way, shape, or form. And they're not making art anymore because they can't. So it's a slippery game. And that's something that I personally care about. And I do think it is tied into disclosure, bringing down those who are in power and who are controlling the narrative. and that is, it's important to talk about. There's some people that I'm connected with that I can't name any names yet, but some bigger names that I'm going to be speaking with soon, who will have a little bit more to say on that matter as far as their experience in Hollywood. Some people who are child actors, etc.
Nice.
A few models, a few well-known child actors who,
the more conversations we can have around that stuff, the better.
Camera about their experience. So, I know it's absolutely, yeah. As much as I want to let people showcase their healing abilities, and we talk about the different, we talk about the Lyrans and the Lemurians and all that stuff, and we'll do a whole episode on that. I think it's just important to do, spend some time talking about, giving some time to people who have really put their eyeballs on what's going on in Hollywood, and not just on TikTok, and can really share their piece and their truth on that. And I thank you for sharing just any experience, because I know people will value it because you've been there. I mean, at the end of the day, not everybody's been there. It's hard to speak on only what you've heard, although people seem to find a way to make it easy. But yeah, I mean, it's valuable all coming from you, Reuben, because you're doing it. You're doing your thing on your own, and you're not dependent on the system anymore. And you're still putting together Lemurian Life conferences or expos, which is
June 20th through the 24th. The 20th is sort of like an orientation day. So
the 21st?
If people, depending on what ticket they get, they can come in a little early, and we're going to have music and folks on the stage just sort of doing a little intro and sort of setting the tone for the week or for the next 4 days. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. Get the mood set. Absolutely. That's really, really cool. Well, it sounds like you've got some great stuff going on. Super happy to hear it. You are a beacon of light. You're shining. Right. You're a star.
According to the Daily Mail, yes.
You're the biggest star that we don't know. The biggest star we've never seen.
Yeah, right.
But according to the Immersive podcast, Reuben Langdon is the biggest star that you've never seen, and even more so, props from me for making art, making it as a passionist, doing what you want and doing what you're passionate about, and being able to support yourself and still leaving that system. It's an important conversation to have. I have some people that I talk to right now who are in that system, who are, they're with CAA or whatever, and they don't know what to do. I mean, half of them wants to leave, half of them doesn't.
Well, at this point, it's like we have to. At this point, I think collectively we have to get our stuff together to really figure out, where are we putting our energy? Are our energy in something that's causing harm and hurting people, or are we putting energy in something that's creating life opportunities? Ways to thrive, positive outcomes. So if these, and anybody who's on the fence, they need that livelihood, as opposed to, and if they clearly know. Now, if they don't know, and if they don't have direction, I totally get it. But if there's a clear moral decision needs to be made, because you need, whether it's a paycheck or there's a clear, okay, this is bad. I'm not going to, if I'm involved in this, I'm going to be, in fact, putting my energy into the harm of others. Yeah. And my 9 to 5 isn't harm.
Yeah. My soul
you can
is
only keep that up for so long before it just destroys your soul and destroys your body and destroys every aspect of you. And that's kind of what's happened to a lot of people. A lot of people have let that destroy them. They've let their moral compass fall to the wayside, and they're dabbling in things that their inner, if they're not physically aware of it, their higher self is aware, their inner self is aware, and the the sicknesses, the illnesses, really low frequency activities, or unstable relationships, the chaos in the life, those say, hey, course correct. You gotta do you. You gotta be who you are. Now, if it's in your DNA and if it brings you joy to cause harm to others, well, that sucks. That's the case. But 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 if that's not you,
That's
and
too
you
bad
know that's
for
not
all
you,
of us,
and
but
yet you still partake, then then that's where the wake up calls come. That's where this chaos is happening. Well, or course correction. Yeah,
that's
course
where some
correction or programming. I don't
unprogramming
know if it's even
is
programming, because
necessary.
if you're at that
Some
stage,
reprogramming,
the
course
universe is
correction.
telling
Yeah.
you what you need to know, and you're just not paying attention. So the universe is telling you to course correct. If you're going against your true self, the universe will tell
Yeah, I
you
guess that's a
in
good point.
all sorts of ways, whether it's a car accident, a relationship issue, or yeah. So pay attention, folks. Are you on the right
Yeah,
course or not?
there will be signs. Yeah. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
well said. Yeah, it's
Yep.
simple. I mean, on that one, pay attention to the signs, listen to the body. If if you're listening to your body and it's telling you horrible
The
things,
thing I
and the
see with
signs
the
that you see
vaxes,
are
so
out of a
more
horror
people,
movie, then
so many people got the
I don't
vaxes.
know.
The the people
Reassess.
who got this and knew they there was something wrong with them, and they did it anyways because of the job or whatever. Those are the people that end up having the issues. The people who look at, what's his name, famous actor, or actually worked with him,
That's the
Jamie
fail.
Foxx. So from the get go. Right. So he knew from the get go, and
Okay.
he was suspicious. He's like, I don't
Yeah,
know
there's
about
a lot
this,
of
but
controversy
it was
around
like,
that.
okay, you're not gonna make this $4 million paycheck if you do the jab. All right, I'll get it anyway. So then he had issues. Time and time and time again, I saw people who kind of doubted it. They would have the issues. People who just didn't know and just like, yeah, let's just get the vet. Problem, no problem. It's fine. It's the people who, right. So it's
Yeah, ignorance isn't something that should be punished by the,
yeah.
higher powers
That's
in the
where
higher dimensions. But
that's
yeah,
giving
knowing and making the choice,
in a sense, yeah. So that's
that's giving
where
consent.
I think we just
It's
need to
choosing the
have
money,
awareness for future
so to speak.
choices, because the worlds are splitting, and the powers that were still trying to hang on to that power, and the way they
Mm-hmm.
do that by making those offerings, by dangling the carrot. The only way they can get energy is for those CIA folks that you may be working
100%.
with, that to still continuously feed. If the CIA members all came to Jesus, tomorrow and said, "What are we doing?" There would not be a CIA.
If
Yeah. So there's no CIA
right,
and there's no issue. So
we must stop. Yeah,
yeah.
that'd be a
And
problem.
that's not to say that the
But
CIA
wouldn't that be
definitely is.
nice?
They're not all bad. There are
Yeah,
good people and
that's a
good
very,
things,
very
but it.
yeah. I've met people who worked for the
No,
those
they're
agencies who, I mean, I met, maybe they're just amazing actors,
exactly,
but I mean,
exactly. But
they don't seem to
the
know much about what's
institutions, when
going
we
on
know
around you or
about
I,
that, we
aside from what they
know
must keep
now beyond a shadow of a doubt that
secret.
CIA killed John F. Kennedy and Robert Kennedy. So it wants to go down that
We
rabbit
know
hole. I
about
encourage you
JFK
to, so
now.
you know what these
We do.
institutions and who the leaders of these institutions, George Bush Sr., former presidents were heads of the
I
CIA.
encourage it as well.
There's
Absolutely. We're starting to see, yeah, absolutely, and we're starting to see
yeah. I
the
mean, it was
stuff
in
come out
Congress
in
today or
not
yesterday. They're
just
talking about
suggestion, but it's
MK
coming
Ultra
out in
weapons
real
that
plain
don't
sight
even
proof. The
need
stuff
that
that
are
was
they're sent to disrupt thinking and that kind of thing. So I'm sorry, but if you're working for an agency that uses these tools appropriately and
yeah,
illegally
it's
against
really
its own
really
citizens, I don't care how good of a person you are feeding a system that is broken. And there's, yeah, exactly. So
yeah. You're eating from
everybody who has those
from the
jobs
tainted trough
needs
or
to,
whatever.
do a
Yeah,
little inner self reflecting, and really decide. At this point, I know a
seek
lot of
self,
people are
seek
in it because
inward.
they think they can
Yeah,
still make a change from the inside, and that's a valid, honorable path. I totally get that. Valiant effort.
hmm
at this time, these institutions have been so
it's a
captured and
valiant
compromised in
effort,
so
but
many
it might
ways
not actually.
that I think it's it's time to put down
I would
our
agree.
weapons and start growing food and community and that that's always been the case, but yeah. Well, let's say growing seeds.
Collecting
I
seeds,
don't think we're not a big fan of the
collecting
hoarding
seeds.
mentality. We got plenty of that.
Helping out our neighbors.
Growing seeds would be a better thing to do.
Yeah, growing seeds. Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. Time to take action. Time to mix our energies. Time to really put our money where our mouth is, so to speak. We've done a lot of many years of the echo chambers on the internet, the virtue signaling, and that's not a bad thing.
Virtue signaling is
Inherently, it
terrible. Don't
spreads
try to give
ideas.
virtue signaling
It's gotten
a free
people
pass.
to not virtue, but the echo chambers where people are able to meet like minds and things like that.
The gaslighting and virtue signaling is terrible.
It's not all terrible. Yeah, for me to yeah, the gaslighting on Instagram, and it's crazy. I'm not giving it. I misspoke a little. But I mean, while it has introduced many people to a certain book that may have really helped them out, or a certain idea that really helped them out, I agree with you. I think it's time to
let me say it's actually past time. Action at this point,
organizing groups. You're into
we're at that mark, that point in time now where if you get into action at this point, you got a lot of catch up work to do. Yeah.
Catch up. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. There's a lot to be done. 100% in so many different aspects. And Reuben, it almost feels like we can have a part 2 on this. We can kind of go into
we could end there.
All right, well, what do we do? Totally leave with that. It's time for people to take action, but y'all got to catch up. But yeah, I mean, you're right, and it's growing food, it's hunting, it's preservatives, it's medicine, it's holistic healing, it's so many different things. It's community though, and with community and in positive intention, we can teach each other anything. We can barter with information. We can barter with skills. We don't need intermediaries. I think it's just opening up and being open to that, getting out there, mixing energies, and the rest of it will come with true altruism and positive intention. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Reuben, we've chatted. It's been about an hour and a half here. I've got to, I guess I've got to get going here shortly, but hey man, it'd be really cool to have you on the show again. It sounds like honestly, there's that I thought I'd try to ask you that we didn't even get to, because I thought we had a good conversation.
Totally.
I think we should
after maybe check in and then
some other things.
I'm going to be a bit busy. I've been saving my move till after the expo, so after that I'm going to be sort of in a moving situation, but we'll figure it out. Yeah, totally. Appreciate it.
Yeah, the big move. Yeah, absolutely. And we can chat a little bit. I'll get in touch with you. Maybe I'll see you at the expo. That's only a week away. Mount Shasta's been calling me. I'm free to travel right now, and I actually really want to travel. So hey, who knows? You never know what the universe is going to bring us. But I just of course want to say Reuben Langdon, the most famous actor that the world hasn't seen. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Street Fighter, Avatar, Power Rangers, Dexter, Stunt done so many things, but the biggest thing he's doing right now is he's organizing real life events for disclosure and for people to educate themselves on Lemurian history, and the channelers who have this knowledge. He's organizing those events. It's a great thing that he's doing. It's altruistic. And the show, interviewing extra dimensionals, that's something I've heard great things about. I've seen clips. Plan to check it out a little bit more. But extra dimensionals, Reuben's ahead of the curve.
Thank you.
Extraterrestrial is the old term. They're extra dimensionals now.
Yeah, I've actually,
Reuben,
my
is
show
there
has
anything you'd
evolved
like to
now
say before we
into
close out
a
the show?
online member where we do interviews. Every week I bring in a channeler and we do sort of live sessions where members can interact and ask questions directly. So that's
Okay.
it's kind of a nice evolution of how the TV show is now evolved into sort of a members corner
Very cool.
slash podcast as well. So so definitely come check us out there. I have it's interviewwithed.org, and we have a free trial. So if you want to pop in and look under the hood and see what's there, and there's lots of offerings.
Okay.
We have almost now, I think we have more episodes
Excellent.
in the members portal than we do on seasons of Interview with Ed. So no lack of content.
Wow. No lack of content. And yeah, and of course, I'll make sure you may have sent some already, but if not, I'll make sure to get all those links that you've mentioned very accessible in the bio for anybody, even if it's just one person. You're really important. I want you to click on that link. The links will be in the bio. So if you need to find anything that Reuben's talked about or anything
Awesome.
that I'm doing, it'll all be in there, and especially the link for tickets to the expo. So, yeah, Reuben, thanks a lot for joining me tonight. I hope you have a great rest of your evening. Good luck planning the final details for the expo.
Thank you.
And man, good luck in your last couple months in the States, man. I'm excited for you. That's really cool.
Appreciate it, Tyler. Thank you.
I'm happy for you. You're a vagabond, and it's great. All right, Reuben. Everybody, thanks for checking out another episode of the Immersive Podcast. We'll see you next time. Tyler out.